The Chrisley family has been making quite a few headlines in recent months, especially with Todd and Julie's recent presidential pardon. However, one member of the family is distancing themselves from the rest in one way. This even includes dropping the family name. Fans were introduced to the Chrisley family through the USA Network series, Chrisley Knows Best. On the series, the family was led by real estate tycoon Todd and his wife Julie. Todd and Julie have 3 children together: Chase, Savannah, and Grayson. In addition, Todd also has 2 children from a previous marriage: his daughter Lindsay and his son Kyle. As previously reported, fans have noticed that Lindsay was going by the last name Landsman on social media. At the time, some fans suspected she might have gotten married, as she seemingly took the last name from her boyfriend, David Landsman. Lindsay recently addressed the rumors during a recent episode of her podcast, The Southern Tea. During the conversation, Lindsay shared she was surprised by how many people even noticed the recent name change. Instead, Lindsay said that the change was intended as a quiet movement. Over the years, she has gone through different surnames, including Campbell, following her marriage to ex-Will Campbell. She went back to Chrisley before the recent change to Landsman. Lindsay shared, "For a long time, I very much battled with carrying my maiden last name, and with me carrying that last name came public association." She shared that she understood the name came with assumptions of all different kinds, weight that I truly feel like I never asked for. In particular, Lindsay disliked accusations of her benefiting from her last name. She shared, "I do think it's fair to say that contrary to what some people believe, the Chrisley last name, while it did start with reality show, Chrisley Knows Best, and we all collectively were doing that project together. Outside of that, that last name did not create income or opportunity for me. In fact," Lindsay shared she felt the opposite had occurred. As she shared, "The family name became very problematic with me being associated, in any capacity, in business, and has been problematic for projects that I have done post Chrisley Knows Best." She even shared that the name cost her business opportunities. There were even a few times when she was advised to use another name. As for using her boyfriend's name, Lindsay shared, "It truly was a decision that I made about reclaiming my peace and stepping into my future that is defined by love, growth over the past couple of years, and just forward movement." Lindsay also explained that she and David were not married. However, she felt, "I feel that it is fair to say that he and I built a safe and loving relationship that allows for stability in my life and in Jackson's life. And in this chapter, that name feels like home to me." She also assured she would have openly shared such news had she gotten married. Explaining the name change further, Lindsay shared, "It has nothing to do with erasing my past. It is all about choosing my future and protecting the people that I love most while doing so. And it felt like it was the right thing to do." Did you listen to Lindsay during her recent podcast episode? Make sure you come back to TV shows Ace for all the latest TV and celebrity news. She awakened to the weight of a name. For years, that name meant everything. A shared identity, headlines that flickered across television screens, a family's fame amplified by a reality show's spotlight. It had built fame, built wealth, yet for her, it now felt like a burden, a cloak stitched too tightly, begging to be shed. The world had known her as the daughter of a television empire. The voice of the Southern Tea had once carried that legacy forward, until the legacy began carrying her instead. Wherever she turned, the name traced her. In boardrooms, in email headers, in the blur of professional introductions. And those spaces did not welcome her, they recoiled. This was not the narrative she asked to be part of. The name had lifted her into the public eye, yes, through a family show, through cameras and scripted celebrations. But in the quieter chapters, in the work she pursued afterward, that same name had become the silent obstacle that barred new doors. Projects slipped away before they began. Opportunities foundered without explanation. Invitations came with a caveat. Could you go by another name? Her journey through marriage had offered an escape of sorts. Taking another surname had felt like a brief return to herself. But after the divorce, she reverted. Not out of desire, but because familiarity demanded it. It felt wrong, but it was simply what remained, the tool nobody had taught her to wield differently. She began to question why a name she'd never chosen should define her path. It should not dictate her worth, her future, her peace. The weight of expectation anchored her, hardened the whispers of assumption. She faced the truth that the Chrisley name had become toxic, not for lack of love, but because associations ran deeper than she had ever expected. It hadn't generated opportunity. At times, it had stolen them. On a quiet morning, with a small phone cradled in her hand, she altered the familiar letters under her name display. A simple change, yet seismic. It registered publicly among fans and followers, and the unrelenting scroll of social media. She did not seek attention in that moment. Attention found her anyway. Behind the visible shift lay something deliberate. It reclaimed peace, an assertion that the future would be defined by love and growth, not legacy. She chose a name that reflected a partner, a relationship built on safety and stability, one that felt like home. No vows had been exchanged, no secret ceremonies, just the quiet decision that this new name aligned with who she had become, and who she was choosing to become again. She did not erase her past. That past had forged her, molded her. But the name had come to feel less like a memory and more like a chain. She sought to unshackle herself, to protect what mattered, especially her little boy, who walked beside her as she navigated each new step. The new name was an anchor, grounding her in a future that belonged to both of them. Reports surfaced, noting the change. Outlets picked up and framed it as both symbolic and logistical. Some described the name as problematic, where the burdens of public ties outweighed the benefits. She nodded inwardly at that. It matched her own reasoning. The name had become a liability in her professional, emotional, and relational life. Family insiders, when asked, said that the shift did not catch them unaware. The estrangement had stretched years deep. The timing felt calculated more than impetuous. The shared silence that followed her departure now seemed to underpin permission, or at least resigned acceptance. Distance, they admitted, had brought them a kind of peace as well. Meanwhile, one younger sibling's own public stance added another layer, a televised declaration that the surname should be cast off entirely. In a trailer for a forthcoming reality series, a face turned toward her absence. No longer family, lose the name. The words echoed, knowingly or not, the shift she had already quietly made. She watched from the margins of cameras that once captured her every step. A new show would premiere in autumn, chronicling what remained of the family's public life, while she moved forward parallel, yet apart. Her voice continued on the Southern T, less tethered, more free. She had reclaimed her name, Landsman, but more importantly, she'd reclaimed her story. A name by which she answered now belonged to growth, peace, love, and intention, not merely to defiance or distancing, but to choosing a foundation built on what felt right for her and her son. No vows had sealed it, no cameras had captured it. The act was quiet, personal, a declaration more powerful because it needed no headline. It marked a new season, rising from pain, from expectation, from inherited identity. In its place lay a name she could call and call back to herself, each time answering with a quieter, truer definition of me. She arose one day, cradling the weight of a name she had carried since birth. It was a name that once heralded familiarity, uplifting her into households across America through a television lens. Yet that same name had transformed over time, from badge of pride into shackle wrought of implication and expectation. Once it signaled belonging, daughter, reality starlet, participant in a familial narrative broadcast to millions. But as years pressed, the identity tethered her more than it lifted. In boardrooms and public ventures, that name became a burden, a signal in a crowd that preceded judgment, not connection solitude. She recalled how the surname, especially after her parents' legal woes, ceased to open doors. It instead drew attention to legacy, not her own merit. Peace became an aspiration trapped behind the weight of a name she hadn't asked for. Her prior choice of surname, Campbell, had felt like relief during her marriage, until that relationship ended. In the aftermath, she reverted to what was familiar, the name that defined her birth, even though it felt hollow. It felt wrong, but it was the only tool she knew how to wield. The strain of that choice filtered into every professional endeavor. Projects faltered. Invitations came with caveats, as if the mere mention of her name justified exclusion. She was asked, in certain circles, to find anonymity in a different name just to make room for opportunity.